There are a lot of things we can learn from our weaknesses and inadequacies. I know this by personal experience. Actually, I felt like until I was about 9 years old, I was convinced that I was mentally retarded. I saw myself as a really stupid person. Now today, 60-some years later, I definitely know I'm not an MIT scholar. I'm not some great philosopher with a fantastic mind. But I also know I'm not a total idiot. God has given me some mental powers, and so I don't want to see people go to the extreme and beat themselves up. But we can learn things through our weaknesses. We can learn humility. We can be aware of our limitations, that it's okay. None of us have to be omnicompetent. We don't have to be able to do everything. My wife, for instance, is a fantastic speaker. Everywhere she goes, I'm told she's a world-class speaker. I will never be able to speak like she does. Never will be able to. But I don't have to. I can simply speak with my ability in my situation. So I think it's important to understand we can learn humility and we can learn our own limitations and we can learn to rely on God. If I think I've got something down, I'm probably not going to pray with a lot of earnestness or zeal. I'm not going to be too terribly serious about begging God. But I can tell you from personal experience, when I know I'm walking into a situation where I am totally inadequate. Have I prepared? Yes. Have I done what I could? Yes. But I'm still unprepared, inadequate. Then I really rely on God. John Knox is a great example of this, the great reformer. He knew that without prayer, he was done. He was a mess. He had to have God. And so he relied on God and in the process became this spiritual giant that finally when he said, give me Scotland or I die, and God answered his prayer in his day, transformed Scotland. So that inadequacy of John Knox's led to his reliance on prayer, which led to this mighty power of faith that transformed a whole nation. And we can learn to handle failure. Some personalities do not like to handle failure. They can't handle it. They have to be successful in everything. But our weakness, our inadequacy can handle, hey, I don't have to be a flaming success at everything I do. God can use even my failures for my good and even for the good of others. One of my favorite verses is 2 Corinthians 1:8, where Paul says, we think you ought to know, dear brothers and sisters, about the trouble we went through in the province of Asia. Listen to what he says. We were crushed and overwhelmed. St. Paul, overwhelmed, beyond our ability to endure, and we thought we would never live through it. So here's Paul under so much pressure. He said, I thought I was going to die. But he learned that that wasn't the end, that he could rely on Christ. St. John of the Cross talks about this dark night of the soul in which God removes his presence. But that's not a failure. It's teaching us to rely on God all the more in those dark nights. So we can learn that our weaknesses point others to Christ and not to us. If I'm a success, just a wonderful success at everything I do, I'm afraid my bad heart would start assuming, whoa, what a great guy you are. One time, C.S. Lewis's driver asked him, what do you think about your growing fame? And Lewis said, think about it. I dare not think about it, lest I grow proud in the process. So we learn that our failures, our weaknesses, point others to Christ instead of to us.